Welcome to the Enchanted Earth podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own. So welcome today to the Enchanted Earth podcast. And today we have with us Angela Mepham. And let me tell you a little bit about Angela. She is a coach, a writer, and former teacher who helps women in the helping professions care for themselves so they can continue caring for others without losing themselves along the way. Inspired by her own journey through burnout and healing, she now guides women back to alignment through her signature Clarify method and her soulful 3-step guide, taking care of others without losing yourself. So welcome, Angela.
Thank you for having me.
I do, as I was, reviewing your bio before and getting back in touch with what it is that you bring to the world. I mean, this type of work is so needed right now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Especially in the helping professions and for professional carers and anybody caring for others in any capacity, whether you're a parent or looking after an elderly relative or a close friend. There's just so many people that are struggling with that idea of care and how much to give without burning out and losing themselves, because that is so easy to do, especially because so many carers are compassionate people and they give and give and give, and they often forget to give that same compassion back to themselves and to remember that they need to look after themselves first in order to be able to give with love. Kind of like nature, like the reason that we're here in a way. It's a little
Absolutely.
bit so much.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm thinking of the correlation between what you just said and people that are involved, not maybe in having to care for another person, but to care for, say, a nonprofit organization or something that they're truly passionate about, and activism. I get a lot of people who are basically getting so burnt out with over care, maybe overwhelmed with what's going on in the world today in every corner of the world. And it comes back to really centering themselves and caring for themselves so that they can give from the overflow, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is easier said than done.
Absolutely. Right. Because we do feel like it's selfish to do that care for ourselves when we see so many people suffering.
Yeah, it is a trap we can kind of fall into, I guess. And I feel like whenever people are asked to say, well, what about you and your needs? It's kind of like, what do you mean? There's so much happening that I need to do. And just that reminder that, there are cycles for everything, and we need to look after our own cycles as well. And we need to make sure that we're replenishing before we can keep giving, because if we just keep giving, we're going to burn out, we're going to run dry. And it's impossible to do the amazing work that all those people are doing to care for the planet or for each other if we don't look after ourselves first. So yeah, it's huge work. It's exciting to be able to try to change that conversation a little bit and remind people that they are worthy of the same compassion that they so willingly give to others.
Yes, yes. And the world needs many, many more people like you to help others through this really interesting threshold that we're going through. So, Angela, tell me a little bit about the land that raised you.
Oh, yeah. So I grew up in New Zealand, which we call the land of the long white cloud. And nature is just a part of every single thing that we do. We're close to the ocean no matter where we are. We're close to all bodies of water, mountains, deserts, anything you can imagine at any time. And it's one of the beautiful parts of it is it's just like a giant like macrocosm in a microcosm. Like that's what a lot of people that visit say. They say they get to see everything in such a short amount of time when they're there. And we're also so kind of apart from the world in New Zealand. And I grew up deep in a valley on a farm, miles from anyone anyway. And then New Zealand so far from everything too. So nature has been, I guess in some ways it almost raised me, I could say. I just spent my days, like my entire childhood outside in the creeks and streams and in the trees and on the farm. And it's always been such a huge and massive part of my life and my heart and the way that I do things, I guess. Yeah.
Was it a sheep farm?
Yeah, so there was sheep and cattle and all number of animals, chickens, and it was a farm that my family lived on. It wasn't our farm. We rented a property. There were a couple of properties next to each other. So we had a family right next door to us as well. That became very close. But other than that, no one there except for the animals and the trees and the mountains. And so yeah, it was something special. Yeah, very blessed.
Wow. Did you have a secret place that you would go to that you wouldn't let the
Oh,
adults know about?
I mean, that's a great question. There were so many sneaky little spots on the farm, but my favorite place was the willow tree. There was a willow tree down the back by the barns, and I just spent so much time in that tree. Like that felt like my home, like my room. Like I lived in it. Yeah.
And willow trees have such like wide branches that you could literally just like be up there very
Mhm.
comfortably without worrying about falling off.
Yeah, it was a giant weeping willow tree, and like you said, there were just so many boughs and hollows and things to just kind of hang out in. And we never built planks in the tree or anything like that. We just spent. So we had favorite branches. I had two sisters, and then a third who was a little baby when she was there to start with, so she didn't get to climb the tree. But the three of us, we were constantly in the tree together, and it was magical. And a creek below, and we used to build little dams in the creek to make swimming holes and things like that. So yeah, it was really awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm just curious, were you at all, did you have responsibility for the animals at all to feed them or
No,
do anything?
no,
Oh,
we used to feed the baby sheep and goats sometimes because when we were little, they used to just kind of be nearby in a field beside us. And so sometimes, like if something happened to the mothers, because we had some steep property on the farm, and sometimes they would topple down the hills, and so we did come across like little babies at times at the bottom and things, and that was tough to see in early sort of learning. But then sometimes they'd be alone, so they need to be bottle fed. So yes, we used to feed the little babies by bottle, and we also the farm dogs. They lived kind of right down by our willow tree, so they didn't like stay in the farmer's house, so they were there in the kennels, and so we used to go and see them every time there was a new litter born. We would be there with the puppies and looking after them as well.
what an idyllic childhood. I could just feel that
Mm.
experience. I mean, someone like me and probably a lot of our listeners grew up in the suburbs or in an
Mhm.
urban environment, and we did not get to experience nature in the way you did. And that is really,
Mm.
really special. So I'm excited that you agreed to be on this podcast, and I'd love to hear a story that you just spontaneously would like to share with us.
Yeah. Well, when you asked, and I was so excited to come on and share because, like I said, having nature just be such a part of my life, I've had so many amazing experiences and enchanted earth experiences in nature. So I feel like I probably need to come on another time and tell some more stories. But there's one that's been sitting with me since you asked, and it relates back to the work that I'm doing right now. And it's from a moment in my life when I reached full burnout. You mentioned at the start, I was an elementary school teacher for 12 years, and there was a point, and it was such a slow creep where I reached full burnout. And that was a really tough time for me because I cared so much, like we spoke about at the beginning, about all of the students in my class and about the people I was working with, the rest of the students in the school. And I also cared for my grandmother at the time as well. She was just in her last years too. And one thing people don't really talk about when they talk about burnout is just, it's not only that your fire goes out, but you're so isolated when you're in full burnout. You become isolated. It's almost like you're enclosed in a block of ice. And you can't, just to put it back in nature terms, that's kind of how it feels. You can see the world, but it's so blurry through the thickness of the ice, and you're disconnected from it. And it makes you numb and cold. Like everything that you cared about and that you loved to do and the things that matter most, it just kind of numbs it all, and you can't see it properly and you can't connect with it. And it's such a frightening place to be. So my nature story comes from being in that place, and we're so disconnected at this point from nature, or from anything else that I loved in the world. But to know that from growing up and being always connected to it, and knowing that it was a part of what gave me energy all the time, and the expansion of it just was what always helped me. To lose that was kind of, as it was tough. And in that moment, there was a moment where something spoke to me, just a tiny spark. And it was one of the days where I wasn't working at this point. I was too burned out to even be at work. And I woke up early and I couldn't sleep. And something just whispered to me, just get up, go out and watch the sunrise. And I was like, oh, I didn't want to get up, I want to go. Okay, go do it. Just do the thing. So I walked across down the road. I was lucky enough at this point to live near the ocean, one of the joys of New Zealand as well. And I took the 15 minutes or so to walk across to the ocean. And I went and stood up on the top of the dunes on the cliff that overlooked the ocean. And I waited for the sun to rise, and I was just feeling so just dark. I was just crystal, wasn't really feeling anything. And I was looking out at the ocean, and just the expansiveness of that started to almost open a little something. And I just stood there, breathed. And I waited for the sun to rise. And as the sun started rising, I remembered something that I'd heard recently or read recently. And it was the reminder of how important gratitude is. And so I thought I'll, try to bring myself into that place right now and be really grateful for what I have in front of me and what's happening. And there was something a little different in that thing that I had learned recently, which was show gratitude, but also receive gratitude in return. And I wasn't sure about that at that moment until this whole experience unfolded. And the sun started coming up, and the sun has always been something that for me is spirit. It is God encapsulated. It touches me. As soon as it rises, I feel it in my heart and my third eye, and I can really feel that. And so I just let myself relax, and I let myself watch that sunrise over the ocean. And I started to feel like that ice block was melting. Like I just started to feel like it was just starting to come in a little more. I could really start to feel. And even that in itself was like, oh, I was like, started to have tears in my eyes, and I'm just enjoying the experience, watching the sun. And then the sun fully came up, and I was, eyes closed, just bathing in that light and feeling something again. And I decided to try that something that I had read recently, and I was sharing. I was just reaching out, and I just said, thank you for this moment, and just for everything you've ever given me, and for everything that, I know that you can give and that I can allow. And then I was like, now allow yourself to receive the gratitude back from the earth. And it felt kind of strange to start with. And I was like, okay. And tears are streaming down my face by this point. And I was like, just try it. And just the feeling of actually allowing my heart to open was so, there was a barrier. It took a bit. And I just waited, and I waited. No one was around. It was early, and I I just waited, and then my heart just started to open, and I received gratitude in return. And I just allowed the sun and the expansiveness of the ocean and the daylight and everything that nature had ever given me to thank me for the joy and gratitude that I was giving out. And it was like a surge of reciprocity. And I felt this energy like, I've had some nature moments. In this moment, I was overcome. And I now with the tears, I was also like laughing and like smiling in that way I had not in months and months and months. And I just felt this unbelievable energy and joy and gratitude come back and fill my heart and fill me up. And it was the first moment in my return from being fully burnt out to start to realize that the ice was melting and I could learn to do this again. I could learn to feel, I could learn to receive. And I thought this was the most unbelievable moment. I'm just like crying with gratitude, laughing with gratitude, but then there was something else. and I, and so I'm feeling joy for the first time in such a long time. And okay, now I start to walk down the wooden steps to the beach, and it's a low tide, and the sand is deliciously flat, and no one's walked on it yet, and there's nothing but just sand, and it's hard packed. And I walk down the steps and I start walking towards the ocean, and there's a gift lying right in front of my feet on the sand. There's nothing else on the sand. There's no shovels or anything, but right in front of me is this gift. I bend down and I pick it up, and I couldn't believe it. And I have it here with me. I have it with me all the time. And it was just lying on the sand in front of me. And I just I just burst out again. I was just like, oh my God, it's real. Like, thank you. Like, and that was the beginning of the healing, just allowing myself to open my heart and let life back in and remember the things that matter. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, Angela. As you were sharing, I got the telltale chills through my body. That is my message of this deep, authentic connection to spirit, to our divine soul.
Mhm.
And that is so beautiful. So there are, I am sure, people out there that are listening to this that hear you say you allowed your heart to open, or whatever the words you use. Basically, you got to a point. So would you mind doing a little play with me? And we could close our eyes and to get back into that moment that you were making that decision and allowing your heart to open. And if you could, to the best of your ability, in words that really don't work, but it's the only thing we have, explain to that person out there that is really looking to expand and open their heart how you did it. And you know what? We just have to believe that spirit is going to give you whatever words that will help that individual.
So it starts with gratitude. It starts with just remembering the small things that somebody has done for you. Somebody has given you their time. Somebody's given you just a kind word. or squeezed your hand or given you a smile as you go by. It's noticing those small moments of connection and being grateful for those moments. And in that gratitude, it's reciprocity. It's sharing from the heart and reaching out, almost like with a physical feeling of saying thank you for that. But then receiving it back again, like a gift from spirit, a gift from nature, a gift from the heart of the person that gave you that little moment of joy. And just feeling that gratitude return and shining like the sun, like a light that starts to melt whatever is wrapped around your heart that's got it closed. It's just that beautiful light, like when the sun touches a bloom in the morning and it reopens after it's been closed at night. Just allow the warmth of that wonderful thanks, or the warmth of the sun, just to open your heart and receive and allow the expansiveness of the entire web of the universe in all its forms to start to strike some little chords within you. Just the right ones that need to be tapped right now, so that you start to feel and dance to that rhythm. And just feel a little something. And then if it feels right, just to reach back out again with joy and gratitude the other way, and to feel the pulse and that rhythm just expand and open your heart a little more. Every time it's back and forth, it expands the energy. And it allows you to more easily notice and welcome those small moments of joy and gratitude, wherever you may find them, whether it's in nature or from somebody, a stranger or a loved one that you see in the day. Just to feel it. And each time that you notice those little things, just allow your heart to soften and imagine that the sun is shining on it and opening it up like a shower and receiving those rays of goodness. And it will become easier each time.
Well, hello, everyone. If you're enjoying these conversations, you'll love my book, The Enchanted Earth. You'll find the purchase links in the show notes, perfect for you or someone you love. Thanks for listening. And now let's return to my guests' inspiring stories. Things that really popped out to me is, well, there were several. One is, you may not feel gratitude at the moment, yet thinking of those little moments that you can say, okay, that was nice. Even though the big picture that you were finding yourself in is anything but what you would be grateful for, those little moments. So that is a really, really important part. And another one that I really love, I've always loved, is the imagery and the metaphor for the ice cube. So having that image of yourself being melted by that sun and knowing that that sun is bringing that warmth and love and compassion, that is really, I think, a really strong metaphor that can really help people. You know, we sometimes need to hook into something that's easy to connect with. And I think
Something
that
tangible.
metaphor, definitely, yeah. And there was something else. Oh, the breath. You didn't mention this, but as you were talking, of course, you're breathing, and I'm breathing with you, and I am breathing in that beautiful warmth into my heart, receiving it, right? With the in-breath. We're receiving it and then we're giving it when we exhale. And it's something that we're just obviously so used to doing, we're not conscious of. But in these moments, we do become more conscious of the breath, right? And sometimes, like, we're not realizing we're doing it, but we're breathing in the love and the light, and we're breathing out the grief and sadness, and but also the gratitude of that ability to be able to do that. Wow. And something else about your experience that I think is important to go that extra mile. You could have turned around and just said, wow, thank you, and went back home. But you said, no, let me go into this experience and revel in it a little bit more. And taking those steps down onto the beach, finding your rock, talk about something tangible that confirms that what you just experienced was real. And isn't that amazing that so often we need that? We need that confirmation.
We do. And from that moment, and it's interesting you talk about the breath, because like I held this so close, and I would hold it as I started meditating again, because that moment there and that experience allowed me to go back to being able to do that, to meditate and to recreate that experience almost. And when I sat, whether it was just in my room or out on the balcony, to imagine the sun just coming and hitting where it needed to and opening me up again. And because that happened, and I was always holding this to remind me, like that tangible thing you're talking about, the breath. The breath just became so much more expansive. And that was one of the next steps in healing from the burnout, was understanding breath. And that moment helped me to do that. And I love that the word inspiration, because inspiration is actually what we're doing with breath, and it's bringing in spirit. That's what inspiration is. And that is what breath is, like respiration, inspiration. We're bringing in breath, we're bringing in spirit. And when we can focus a little bit on the breath in those moments of joy and gratitude, then that brings those expansive moments back, brings spirit back in, and allows you to, again, more fully open your heart and allow those quiet whispers of spirit to be heard. And from that moment on, I started to hear spirit again and listen to the whispers. And it was like listening to the little things that popped in out of nowhere that didn't seem to make any tangible sense, but going with them, because I followed that whisper to go over and watch the sunrise that morning. And now I don't need to understand what this means. Just listen to it and follow it. And that then helped me reconnect with so many aspects of life and relationship again, and to bring just the colors back into the world for me, and just being able to slow the breath and listen to those whispers. Like all of it it was such an unbelievable moment, because it just opened everything up. It was almost like the catalyst for healing from that moment. So I'm forever grateful for that experience.
And for your recognition of that little nudge when you woke up so early in the middle of the night. That's like, to me, that's the middle of the night, probably way before the sun rises. But to listen to that nudge. I recently had another guest share a similar experience of being in a deep depression, laying on the couch, and then getting some inspiration to go out and take a walk into the park. And so it's like that following, that little nudge. I'm talking to everyone out there that's watching and listening. If you're in a place that you can recognize is burnout or depression, follow that little nudge that is going to get you off the couch or get you out into nature and just be open because, well, there's nothing to lose.
And so much to gain.
So much to gain. Getting out into nature. Nature is there for us to develop this beautiful reciprocal relationship of healing and love and compassion. And yeah, that is something that, we need to come back to.
And we spend so much time indoors and so clouded by the clutter and the screens and the noise of the environment around us and just all the obligations and the things that we need to do and tick off our list every day that we forget how empowering it is to take a moment. And it doesn't have to be a long moment to be outside, to notice, even if you're in the city, to step into the park or to notice the feather that's, floating along the path in front of you, or just to see the way that the leaves change. Because in fall right now, it's so stunning outside, just the little things. And they all link back to, again, the cycles of what we go through in life too. So like right now it's fall, it's just that reminder of letting go. And yeah, wow, it's such a small reminder, but it's so powerful just to allow it back in because it's the number one place where spirit comes from. And if we hide from it, if we don't allow ourselves those moments, it can become gray pretty quickly. And yeah, we want to bring that color in as much as possible.
So a couple of questions here. You're obviously not in New Zealand if you're talking about the fall. So where are you living now?
So I'm in Ontario in Canada at the moment, and just out of complete coincidence too, having this conversation right now, I just came back from Northern Ontario up on the lakes for the last week, and I managed to reconnect with the story almost in such a beautiful way because I got up every morning for the sunrise, which when I'm here in the city, I don't really do so much. And I would just sit on the rock on the lakeshore and watch the sun come up. And it's just brought me back to that presence and that prayer. And I would just sit there and allow the exact same thing to happen, just to speak to spirit and let in whatever needs to be let in. And the very first morning I was there when I watched it, it was probably the first sunrise I've seen in a wee while, to be honest. And I was closing my eyes and allowing it, and then I would look up right as it was coming to the full, and a golden eagle the first morning flew out of the sunrise right towards me. And I'm just like, as if I needed another sign. Like, I'm out here to come and connect with spirit, and I'm like, and I don't know if you've ever seen a golden eagle, but they're huge. They're like bigger than bald eagles, and they're just extraordinary. So majestic, and it just came out of the sun right. It's just like this. Thank you. So I've been practicing giving that gratitude back and receiving it. Amazing.
Wow. That is beautiful. And whenever I have something like that happen where an animal is coming toward me, I make note of that because there's something that is coming toward you. Either it's a message from spirit or it's an opportunity that you need to take. I always interpret it in that kind of way. Wow.
Yeah, so that's where I am now. I was up there, and now, yeah, being back in the city, but walking every day, and just every single day, no matter what the weather, noticing the changes, because I just find that life's a lot easier and gentler and softer when you do that.
And we need that now.
Oh, yeah.
We so need that now. I'm going to ask you a question I ask many of my guests. Do you think we all have these kind of profound, magical experiences?
I think we all have the capacity to experience them. Absolutely. I'm not sure that everybody is open to receiving them or to noticing when they happen. I would like for everyone to be. That would be the most amazing thing for everybody to
Yes.
know that they can have those experiences.
Angela, not to cut you off, but just getting back to why I was asking you to talk about your heart opening. And like you said, we, I agree with you. We have the capacity, but some people are so closed off and their heart is so closed to that. And yeah, I think your sharing of how you made that happen will help some people with
I hope
experience.
so.
And I think some of us have experiences, but we kind of dismissed them and
Mm.
like, oh, that was just a coincidence there,
Yes.
nothing, and maybe pushed it back, but it's still there. So
Mhm.
perhaps you're sharing your story and the other stories on this podcast will get somebody to recall an experience and say, oh yeah, I did have something that was pretty cool. Let me
Mhm.
think about that a little bit more. And maybe they'll find some gift.
Yeah. Even if they have to go back to a childhood memory, sometimes I think where when you start telling stories, people remember things that have happened, like you said, and see them in a new light. And you know what? Well, when I was 10, this thing happened to me. And at the time, I didn't really think about it too much. Or somebody told them that it was, oh, it's nothing. That's another thing too. Who you're around makes a big difference as to how you experience it. If
Yeah,
you're
and
sharing with somebody, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just going to say, agree that experience, it then having somebody dismiss it, an adult, of course, that
Mhm.
you respect, is going, or has a tremendous influence on your life, is going to color your view of the world. It's not
Mhm.
magical. Oh yeah, I have to grow up and that's child, that was my imagination, which its imagination has received such negative press. We have to bring imagination back more. And
Oh, yes.
imagination, I just saw this meme on Instagram the other day about using your imagination to imagine like the worst of a situation, which I think a lot of
Yeah.
people on this planet are doing right now.
Mhm.
You can use your imagination to think of what, the beauty and the love
Yes.
and the joy and the connections
Mhm.
and all of that. That's a much better use of imagination.
Absolutely. And doing that out in nature helps to make it feel more alive because you're in the
Absolutely
living world.
alive.
It brings it alive. Mm.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm going to ask, it may not go anywhere, but do you recall the very first experience in your life? Like the very first thing that you can remember experiencing at all, anything?
Wow. The first thing that popped to mind when you asked that, sure, I'll go with it. Because obviously I'm saying I'm open to
Yes.
spirits letting me know right now. Before we moved, because I was probably about 4 years old when we moved to the farm. Before that, I have a memory of one of the places we were staying before that, and outside on the path, because it was a more suburban area, I recall, there was a giant, what we call, I called them helicopter trees, but I think it's like a maple or a sycamore, because all I remember were the seeds just falling and spinning in the air and just being mesmerized by these magical things that were falling out of the sky. And I just remember collecting them and throwing them and just watching them, and just I could have stared at that for hours. I remember that pretty vividly. Yeah.
I love that it was a nature experience. That is so beautiful. So beautiful. And I don't know. I would suggest, I love when people come up with a story like that, because I would suggest maybe journaling about it and see where it leads. Because I have this hypothesis that the first story, the first experience we can remember as a child has some real gift for us. There's a reason why that stayed with us.
Mhm.
And why spirit, like you said, okay, here's one. So there's something more. There's something more. That
Yeah.
is beautiful. I love that. Wow. So as we wrap up here, Angela, is there anything else you would like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think just the reminder, and I think we've what we've covered as a theme in this conversation today is just remember that we are all connected. We're connected to the past and the present, to everyone who's ever been, to every spiritual soul and energy, and also to the wider universe in every single way. It's just a giant web, and at any moment you can connect with that. And when you feel like you're alone and isolated and things aren't going well, if we can remember just to open our heart just a little and to experience those connections and that expansion that can come, I would just say, yeah, just soften your heart and just allow it to open. Allow yourself to receive. Allow yourself to receive. Because what is most meant to come to you will, if you allow your heart to be just a little bit open. Great gifts.
Yeah. And I think those are really wise words for our times. So, Angela, you do have some information available for listeners who would like to learn more about your Clarify method, correct?
Yeah, so you can come and follow me on Whole Heart Being is my Instagram handle. That's probably where I'm the most active and where I like to share nature things almost every day. I've just shared all my animal experiences on there in my stories, but also I think you're going to pop the link into just for the Clarify link, and that will
Yes.
send you to some different places too. Yeah, I have a 3-step guide at the moment, which is just how to take care of others without losing yourself, for all of the people in those positions where you're giving so much of yourself, but you're kind of losing your own self in the process. So kind of brings in some of these things that we've talked about today. And yeah, I'd love to see you come and join me in those places. That would be amazing.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, yes, those links will be in the show notes below, so you can connect with Angela there. Well, thank you so much, Angela, for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a wonderful experience. Lovely to share these stories and get them out to the rest of the world.
Every single one of these stories that I hear on this podcast, I feel like are beautiful gems that are polished and gleaming with luminosity. So I hope everybody just takes in the energy here. And yes, for those of you watching and listening, please like. If you liked it, please comment. I will respond. Please share. And I hope you have a magical day, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so that you'll know when we publish another inspiring episode. Check out my book, The Enchanted Earth, available wherever online books are sold. Thank you and have a magical day.